Fpyq. Chapter 54. Disturbance. Once Jinger had received Rong Sunyang's letter, he opened it. In it, she urged him to wait a few days. After that, she could ascertain all of the belongings, money, country estates, and shops under Shui Linglong's name. She did not inquire about why he wanted this information. The moment she had received Jinger's letter, she completely understood. Jinger started to write a letter expressing his thanks. Then he had a servant deliver it to Rong Sunyang. After that, he made for the outer study. Once he reached the door to the study, he caught sight of Li Zihoqi. Jinger stopped in his tracks and waited for him to enter first, showing his respect, but Li Zihoqi said at the door, "After you, Sir Qi." Jinger broke into a smile. "Mr. need not be so polite. You are all my seniors. In the Prince estate, you gentlemen assist His Highness. Why should we care about these false reputations?" Li Zihoqi solemnly said, "Even if it's just inside the estate, we must take note of etiquette and social ranking." Left with no other option, Jinger said, "Then I will enter first." Chao Manjin also arrived. From far away, he greeted him by raising his clasped hands. He smiled and said, "Sir Qi came over so early." To which Jinger nodded. He opened the door and stepped foot within the study. Ceda's suicide in the prison wasn't a small matter. A few days prior, he had stayed quiet. Not a word had left his lips, nor did he give off the impression he had the intention to take his life. However, one day out of the blue, he shattered a water bowl. Once the prison bailiff had heard the sound, and before he could arrive to Ceda's cell, Ceda had already picked up a shard and sliced open his carotid artery, and he died from blood loss. The cell was dyed red. Such a sight brought bitterness to others and caused them to sigh. An official from the Ministry of Justice reported this matter to the Emperor, and also presented Ceda's suicide note. The next day, during morning court, the Emperor ordered the Ministry of Justice and the Dali Temple to investigate this matter together. Once someone died, all the grudges and crimes related to them also dissipated. However, there were people in the court who criticized Prince Chun. Although they didn't express this aloud, looking at one another, it went without saying. The meritorious deed from the northwest region was too grand. One less person to share it with was better than one more person. However, some people thought that if Ceda had not been ambushed, Prince Chun would not have been in that much danger. And then Prince Chun would not have contributed as much. Everything that happened was by no means an isolated case. To avoid suspicion, Li Chen did appear personally to participate in the investigation. They couldn't help but say that Cheng Sija and Ceda had a tacit understanding. One would not confess even in death. One did not leave behind even one witness. At present, the only witness was Prince Chun. Not to mention, Jinger's identity was special. Everyone could tell he belonged to Prince Chun's estate. If he was the only person testifying that he heard Ceda say he wanted to harm Prince Chun, it would be of no use. Recently, Li Chen had not been on duty at the Ministry of Revenue. Instead, he had stayed in the estate, leisurely reading, playing the guqin and playing chess. Occasionally, he would sit by the lake and fish. He did not seem anxious at all. Why did Ceda deliberately take his life yesterday? He did not on the road back, or after being thrown into his cell. Yet, he just suddenly died yesterday. Just who did he see? Said Li Zihoqi, frowning. Chao Manjin had already gone outside and inquired around. He said, Ceda did not do anything abnormal in the prison. Every day, no one visited him. The only time he had human contact was when the jailers were around, or when people delivered his meals, or changed the bucket latrine. He had not been convicted yet, so the petty officers of the Ministry of Justice treated him well. I heard that he was in a special designated cell of the Ministry of Justice. It's empty and only had him living there. Jinger said, "Those jailers. They have all been kept in custody and are under investigation. Right now, the people in charge have not found any other evidence yet. Old Yu Yang said in an unhurried pace. Ceda arrived at the capital for so long, but his family has never made any movements. Li Chen said, Ceda's principal consort and concubine did not give birth to any children and he's not from an influential family. His family is small, and he was always guarding Yuè Pass. His principal consort and concubine are both vegetarian and pray to Buddha. They indeed did not ask for help for Ceda. They also do not know any influential people and have no ability to ask anyone for help and to please on behalf of Ceda. Qi Yunruo frowned. Is there really no way to convict Ceda? A thought flashed through his mind and he said, since Ceda can die for his subordinates, then that person behind him must have given him something worth more than his life. Maybe that person have something substantial to threaten him with. But Ceda was stationed at the border for many years, and does not operate in the capital. If we stay in the capital, we won't be able to uncover his background, said Chao Manjin. Old Yu Yang smiled. Originally, Ceda was an unknown small general in the Qi clan's army. We need to know whom he pledged loyalty to later on. When did he start following this person? In other words, when did his behavior and style start to change? At that moment, a light flashed in Qi Yunruo's mind. Right, he was part of the Qi army remnants that stayed in the northwest. At first, he had no choice but to be loyal to the Qi family. Later on, after he changed masters, his behavior changed. Old Yu Yang touched his beard. All smiles as he glanced at Qi Yunruo. To find out who his master is, said Li Chen in a low voice, we'll have to see who in the capital makes a move at this time. In Qi Yunruo's opinion, after Ceda had changed masters, his way of handling things grew different from that of the past. For example, he obviously knew those people were spies from Xinyuan country, yet allowed them to add more and more disorder to Yuè Pass. Would the Ceda of the past do this? When Qi Yunruo had first arrived in the northwest region, he had heard many years ago, Ceda had been very careful, relying on his strength to be promoted one step at a time. Captured and thrown into prison with Ceda were his personal troops. We can't do anything about them, said Li Chen. Ceda has a few tens of thousands of subordinates. There are bound to be some who disagree with him. Li Chen found people to investigate those matters. Then he and Qi Yunruo returned hand in hand. Qi Yunruo sighed with emotion. I think Mr. Li's road as an official is not smooth but his conduct is good. He follows etiquette, and he's conscientious. It's such a pity. You don't like Chao Manjin? Asked Li Chen in passing. Feeling somewhat awkward, Qi Yunruo said, he just gives off an impression of a bandit to me. Actually, bandit isn't the right word. Does he seem too much like a common person? I'm not sure. Light laughter escaped Li Chen's lips. Whose literary talent do you believe is better? Without the slightest hesitation, Qi Yunruo replied, of course it's Mr. Li. He blinked. Is it not? In the past, Chao Manjin placed as the Zheyuan of Liaozhong County. After that, he passed the imperial examinations in the capital. Qi Yunruo widened his eyes, disbelief filling them. His literary talent was renowned. Everyone knew he would definitely be that year's Zhuang Yuan. Rich and powerful people asked him to draw a piece of calligraphy and sign it. Afterward, Chao Manjin established a rule where if one did not give him 50 kilograms of silver, he would not write for them. In the end, during the palace exams, the official conducting the exam gave him last place. Said he was too concerned about money. That if he became an official, he would definitely be corrupt. Chao Manjin had no other path apart from becoming a backup official. However, because his looks left much to be desired, and his reputation was also poor, he didn't even have the chance to be one. But I met him by coincidence. I read his essay from the palace exam and thought he had great scholarly talent. Therefore, I invited him to my estate. After Qi Yunruo had heard these words, he sighed. Although he has a thirst for money, he might not become a corrupt official. In ancient times, there were many officials that helped people write calligraphy, and the remuneration was in the hundreds of kilograms of silver. The test examiner was too dogmatic. Smiling, Li Chen nodded. He did not explain, and instead continued to say, by chance, Li Zihoqi had participated in the same exam as him, but his position was too low, so he did not have the opportunity to enter Hanlin Academy. After working in the Ministry of Personnel for a few years, he transferred to the Imperial Censorate, but because he tried to impeach his superior, others said he did not respect superiors and dismissed him from office. Qi Yunruo asked, then what about Mr. Wu Yang? It was fate as well. That year I had gone to Jiangnan and saw an elderly man fishing at a river bank. Behind him was a house made of bamboo. I asked for a cup of water, and the old man said that not just anyone could drink his water. He also said that I looked like someone whose accomplishments would not come smoothly no matter what they were. Oh! In Qi Yunruo's eyes existed a trace of surprise. Once again, Li Chen smiled. That was during the first year I worked at the Ministry of Revenue. From the bottom of my heart, I wanted to investigate something thoroughly. Wu Yang discerned my identity and advised me. Later on, as I was returning to the capital, I passed by his bamboo house. And I brought him back with me. A smile spread through Qi Yunruo's lips. It truly is fate. On their way back, Suji rushed over. As he saluted, he said, Your Highness, Sir Qi, something has happened in the inner courtyard. Frowning, Li Chen said, What happened? With a bitter expression, Suji replied, Your Highness, eldest young master accidentally dropped second young master. And now second young master won't stop crying. Also startled, Qi Yunruo rushed to say, Did he get hurt? Dr. Lu does not specialize in pediatrics. This slave has already sent people to summon an imperial physician. Li Chen turned and made his way in the direction of Frost Autumn Courtyard. Qi Yunruo hurried to follow suit. The 3-year-old Jinger had his head lowered, little hands clutching at the corners of his clothes. Feeling wronged, he bit his lips. Once he saw Li Chen arrive, a trace of nervousness appeared in his gaze. Consort Ji calmed herself. She curtsied and said, This concubine greets your highness. Meanwhile, Muir was still crying on and off. Sobbing, Consort Wei sat on the bed. Xiao Qiao carried the baby as she paced the room, trying to amuse him. Li Chen said, Just what happened here? Your highness, said Consort Ji. Children are not sensible. Weeping, Consort Wei said, This concubine just wants to ask this, since eldest young master has so many people waiting on him, why did he purposely come to Muir's room? Why did he purposely have to hold Muir? Consort Ji said sternly, What are you trying to say? As Consort Wei held Muir, her tears flowed with no end. Little Muir's sobs gradually grew softer. Such an appearance could move more people than if she had jumped into accusations. Frowning, Qi Yunruo didn't know how to handle this. All of a sudden, Jinger said in a very childish voice, I just wanted to hold little brother. After hearing these words, Consort Ji seemed to have grown more confident. She sneered. Younger sister only asks about the people around Jinger, but what about the wet nurse, older female servants, and servant girls by second young master's side? Why did they let Jinger hold him after he asked to hold him? Or did those people not know that Jinger is only 3 years old and doesn't have that kind of strength? Shut up, both of you. Once those words had left Li Chen's lips, Consort Ji paled. However, Jinger, who had just been timid, summoned all his courage to walk right in front of Li Chen. Father, I didn't do it on purpose. I wanted to play with little brother. When I saw him over here, I wanted to hold him. I didn't drop him on purpose. I'm willing to give little brother my most precious items to apologize. A breath of relief left Qi Yunruo's lips. He dropped to crouch, his gaze falling upon Li Chen's eldest son. He flashed him a smile, but a stern gaze appeared in his line of sight. Out of reflex, Chi Yunruo looked up and he saw Consort Ji staring at him, expression cold and stern. Within her gaze was distrust and scrutiny, not to mention, it was filled with hostility. Chi Yunruo rose to his feet. However, Jinger's gaze followed him, brimming with curiosity. Li Chen approached Consort Wei and held Muir. He examined the back of his head. There were still tears in Muir's eyes, making them watery, his little nose twitching from sniffles. Full of expectation, Consort Wei gazed at the father and son pair. Li Chen said, "Where are the people waiting on Jinger?" A woman knelt on the ground. Her voice trembled as she said, "Originally, this slave keeps close to eldest young master. Since eldest young master wanted to find his little brother to play, we slaves dared not stop him. However, this slave said that we must inform the secondary consort first. Just as this slave turned around to call for a servant girl for this, eldest young master rushed here." Jinger lowered his head in silence, his 2 little feet fidgeting. He didn't dare to look at anyone. Li Chen scanned the room. No one had the courage to lift their heads. He asked, "Where are the people waiting on Muir?" Xiao Qiao said, "Reporting to your highness, for the time being, second young master only has 1 wet nurse and 2 low-ranked servant girls attending to him. Her Highness the Princess Consort said that once second young master can run and walk, she would assign him some eunuchs and first-ranked servant girls. Today, because second young master's wet nurse, Granny Huang, took a leave of absence, the 2 low-ranked servant girls didn't dare say anything to eldest young master. Which was why eldest young master could pick up second young master. Since yesterday, our secondary consort did not feel well. Scared that she would infect second young master, she did not come here until this situation occurred." At this point, even Consort Ji had nothing to say. Anxiously, she looked at Li Chen. Then she gazed ruthlessly at her own older female servants and servant girls. If it weren't for the fact that these cheap things couldn't monitor her son properly, Jinger wouldn't have run here. Once she returned to her residence, she must punish these cheap things. Dejected, Jinger said once more, "I didn't want to drop little brother." His words came out nasally. At that moment, sadness entered Chi Yunruo's heart. He glanced at Li Chen. Li Chen beckoned for Jinger to come over. Then he stroked his head. A good while later, Li Chen said lightly, "Summon the princess consort." At that time, Chi Nikan was already on the way to Frost Autumn Courtyard. Not long after Li Chen had ordered for her to be summoned, she had arrived. She first saluted to Li Chen, before her gaze landed on Chi Yunruo for a few moments. Li Chen asked, "Is Princess Consort aware of what happened?" This concubine heard bits and pieces of it on the way here. Then how does Princess Consort think this matter should be handled? Chi Nikan replied, "The people who attend to Jinger and Muir did not watch over them well. They ought to be punished. However, the wet nurses are a bit different. Once they have been fined, they should continue with their work." Once the words had left Chi Nikan's lips, the few low-ranked servant girls fell to a kneel to beg. And Muir began to cry again. Chi Yunruo hurried to say, "Send everyone out. Don't scare second young master." As he had spoken, Jinger glanced at him again. Chi Yunruo smiled toward the child. This time, he didn't care about Consort Ji's gaze. He took the initiative to reach out toward Jinger and the child placed his small hand on top of his. Then he started to lead Jinger out of the room. In the end, Li Chen agreed with Chi Nikan's decision, punishing all of the servant girls and only keeping the wet nurses. The maidservants who waited on Jinger all stared at him with pleading looks as they knelt. Jinger said, "Father, this was my fault, not theirs. As servants, if they are unable to take care of their master well, what's the point of keeping them?" Sadness filling his heart, Jinger said, "If only I didn't want to see little brother no matter what. I heard that babies are cute and sensible, and would even call me big brother. Qi Yunruo's heart skipped a beat. Your Highness, at present, both secondary consorts have given birth to a son, said Qi Nikan. In the first place, Frost Autumn Courtyard doesn't have much space. How about having one of the secondary consorts move out? It'll be convenient for their regular pattern of life. Li Chen nodded. This matter will be up to Princess Consort to handle. Once the imperial physician had rushed over, he examined Muir. Fortunately the mat on the bed is thick. The little master is fine. The maidservants sent off the imperial physician, and Consort Wei let out a breath of relief. Although her son was not punished, Consort Ji didn't care that the servants were punished. She shot a cold glance at Consort Wei and couldn't help but think it would have been great if he had actually dropped the baby. Now that mother and son pair had benefited. Who would have known Li Chen would say in the next moment, Jinger has grown up and only knows how to play with the servant girls. Why not have him move to the forecourt so his teachings can start as soon as possible? Your Highness, screamed Consort Ji. Then, in a frantic manner, she said, Your Highness, Jinger is only 3 years old. Didn't Your Highness say previously that Jinger can stay with this concubine until he is 5? Since you don't have any capable servants, this prince's residence has enough people to carefully watch the child. Consort Ji's tears fell. She pleaded, Your Highness, how about we let Jinger stay here 1 more year? Jinger is very naughty. If he disturbs Your Highness in the forecourt. The moment Qi Nikan had heard Li Chen's words, a thought flew into her mind. Not good. If Jinger moved to the forecourt now, then he would have contact with the prince every day and the emotions between them would definitely grow. In 2 years, Muir might also be sent there after following this precedent. And she didn't know when she'd be able to give birth to a legitimate son. If the 2 illegitimate sons received the prince's love early on, then how could this be any good? For this reason, Qi Nikan advised with a smile, Your Highness is being too impatient. Let's not talk about the fact that Jinger is still young, and to be instructed at too young of an age is not beneficial. It's also inappropriate to separate the mother and son pair without careful consideration. Consort Wei also came to the same thought. Your Highness, if we separate elder sister Ji and her son because of Muir, this concubine will be uneasy. At present, Muir is fine. A few days later, after this concubine moves out with Muir, something like what happened today won't occur again. Qi Yunruo shifted his gaze to Li Chen. He could guess what Li Chen was trying to do with his sudden decision to move Jinger into the forecourt and he truly approved of it. However, when it's all said and done, he didn't dare to say anything. He looked at Jinger and feared that Jinger was unwilling. However, Jinger's eyes brightened, full of excitement as he said, Let me live in the forecourt. Will I be living with father? A smile graced Qi Yunruo's lips. Does eldest young master want to? Jinger nodded enthusiastically, within Li Chen's gaze were traces of a smile. Yet, Consort Ji threw herself over and hugged Jinger, sobbing. Begging Your Highness to allow Jinger to stay here. Even if it's only for 1 more month. Even if he stays here 1 more month, he'd still have to leave in the end, said Li Chen. Standing in the middle, Jinger said with a bit of awkwardness, Mother, I will come visit your honored self. Consort Ji's sobs gradually subsided. Reason returned to her head. She thought of the advantages that came with Jinger moving to the forecourt, and tearfully kowtowed to Li Chen. This concubine understands. Powerless in the face of this, Qi Nikan and Consort Wei felt pressured. Especially Qi Nikan. It were as if she could already see Jinger becoming the most favored son, suppressing her own son every day in the future. And like this, Jinger moved to Ink Lotus Courtyard. Excited to the extreme, he took in his new residence. Li Chen's main wing faced southward. He had Jinger live in the southern wing opposite of this one. It consisted of 5 rooms. Jinger ran from the first to the last. Li Chen had decided on this living arrangement at the spur of a moment, standing at the doorway and watching as Jinger ran back and forth. Qi Yunruo said, Your Highness, what is your honored self thinking about? Are you wondering why eldest young master suddenly thought about finding and holding his little brother? Not a word escaping his lips, Li Chen gazed at Jinger. Upon Jinger's face was the most sincere type of joy. Under the lead of Luxuan, the first-ranked servant girls of Ink Lotus Courtyard stood guard on the side, afraid that he would bump into something. Chi Yunruo said, "It's getting warmer, but the mat on second young master's bed is very thick," and his wet nurse suddenly took a leave of absence. He did not continue voicing his thoughts as his ears caught a deep sigh from Li Chen. Chi Yunruo seemed to have understood something. He reached out with both hands to hold Li Chen's. Then he turned sideways to look at Jinger. He smiled and said, "Eldest young master resembles your honored self a lot." Jinger had already calmed down, and Luxuan held him as she sat on a stool, watching as a few eunuchs tidied up the room and arranged the decorations. As Chi Yunruo looked at them, Jinger looked at his new residence, and whenever he saw something he liked, a smile would light up his face. Children could not conceal their happiness and were without a care. Smiling, Chi Yunruo said, "Eldest young master really admires your honored self, so he is overjoyed to move here today." Li Chen said, "Young children are like so. Happy about new things." Chi Yunruo thought of a problem and said with a frown, "Before the evening, we must find new servant girls for eldest young master. Not to mention, eldest young master is very active. We'll need to find some strong eunuchs to watch over him." "Feng Yuan," shouted Li Chen. "This slave is present," said Feng Yuan, rushing over. "First find 4 servant girls and 4 eunuchs. They must be proper and able to take care of others. If there's anything wrong with them, you won't need your head anymore." Feng Yuan blurted, "This slave understands." Come evening, Jinger unexpectedly did not have an appetite for the table full of dishes before him. He was still 3 years old, and the things he could eat were limited. As such, Chi Yunruo specially instructed the kitchens to make a few dishes that were fresh, tasty, and easily digestible. Dishes that little children also liked. Jinger sat on a high chair, eyes somewhat red. It took no time at all for Chi Yunruo to understand. This child was either missing his mother or wet nurse. His wet nurse hadn't done a good job before. At his age, Jinger didn't need one to stick by him all the time, so she stayed in Frost Autumn Courtyard. When a young child suddenly entered a new environment, once their excitement passed, they would start to feel uneasy. They would think about the people who had used to accompany him. Somewhat absent-mindedly, Chi Yunruo looked at Jinger. Li Chen pushed a bowl of egg custard to Jinger. "Quickly eat this." And Jinger's tears swiftly fell. His hand shook as he reached for the spoon. Chi Yunruo snapped out of his thoughts and smiled consolingly toward him. "What does eldest young master like to eat? I can tell the kitchens to make your meals again." Jinger choked with sobs. "I don't want to eat. I want mother." Li Chen's expression chilled. Chi Yunruo rushed to say, "Your Highness, eldest young master feels uneasy. How about tonight, you accompany eldest young master to sleep?" A frown spread across Li Chen's lips. Chi Yunruo smiled. "Eldest young master, what do you think?" Indeed, Jinger's expression grew better. However, he sneaked some peeks at his father in a doubtful manner. Originally, Li Chen had wanted to say such a custom did not exist, that sons should sleep by themselves, but once he caught sight of the looks of expectation from both Chi Yunruo and Jinger, he nodded out of reflex. A soft cough, and he said, "If you finish your meal, you can sleep with father tonight." Feeling moved, Jinger nodded. He picked up the spoon, scooped a large spoonful of egg custard and stuffed it into his mouth. Chi Yunruo set down his chopsticks. He propped up his chin as he watched him eat with a childish face, a big smile on his own. Eyes large and round and bright. Li Chen turned sideways and noticed his gaze. And his heart was stirred. It turned out little Chi really liked children. When one lacked in some area, one would usually choose to compensate in another area. In his youth, Qi Yunruo had only his mother, with his father acting more like a guest than a father in his life. Sometimes he would appear, sometimes he would be gone for a good while. And sometimes, years would pass without his appearance. Now that Jinger had arrived by Li Chen's side, Qi Yunruo felt fulfilled. The servants carried Jinger away to brush his teeth and bathe. Li Chen held Qi Yunruo's hand. "Your Highness." Li Chen pressed his forehead against Qi Yunruo's. Slightly turned. Qi Yunruo understood what he meant and smiled. "I don't feel discontent at all right now. The heavens have already compensated me for what I lack. I find myself very fortunate. If I hadn't come to Prince Chun's estate, I would not have met your honored self. I would not have experienced so many things or have met so many people." Li Chen stared into his eyes, his expression gentle. Face flushing a shade, Qi Yunruo rose to his feet. "Your Highness, tonight I will sleep in the western wing. Accompany eldest young master tonight. I still have a few account books I haven't finished reading yet." "Don't call him eldest young master," said Li Chen. "We will live here together for a long time. Just call him Jinger." "All right. I understand." End chapter. Fpyq. Chapter 55. Cheer. After Jinger had settled down at Ink Lotus Courtyard, Li Chen did not rush to have him taught and instructed. He merely allowed Jinger to enter the forecourt, assigning a few eunuchs to accompany him so that he could go wherever he pleased. Ceda's case was neither urgent nor unimportant. The people of the Ministry of Justice and the Dali Temple needed to collect evidence from the northwest region. Since it took a few months to go back and forth, it would be considered great should they settle this case within a year. Qi Yunruo received a thick letter from Rong Sunyang, staying quiet for a good while. Then he took out each page, reading them one by one. He had read every word with care. Afterwards, he placed the pages on top of the desk. Grinned some ink and made a copy of the letter. As Qi Yunruo waited for the ink to dry, he was somewhat absent-minded. However, he already knew well his next step. He neither felt regretful nor was there a possibility of him feeling that way. Count Xiang's estate and Prince Chun's estate both resided in the capital. However, the two estates were not close in distance. Qi Yunruo carried the thick letter outside, bringing 2 guards with him. He did not don his official's robes. He was familiar with the route as he rode a horse to Count Xiang's estate, gazing at the front doors from afar. At the side, Fang Gur stared at it in silence. The other guard asked, "Are we looking for second young master Qi?" Qi Yunruo shook his head. He turned his horse and went toward the corner door of the estate. The path was narrow. Qi Yunruo climbed off his horse, rushed to the door, and knocked on it. "Who is it?" Not a word left his lips as he knocked again. The gatekeeper opened the door impatiently. As soon as he saw Qi Yunruo, he stilled. "Who are you?" Qi Yunruo handed the letter to him. After a moment of being startled, the gatekeeper said with anger, "What's this? Who are you? Do you know what this place is?" Qi Yunruo said, "Hand this to Count Xiang." Then he turned around and left. Fang Gur approached him a few steps. He frowned and asked, "Would that letter reach Count Xiang's hands? If he doesn't read it today, I'll send another tomorrow. There'll definitely be a day when he reads it." Agitated, Qi Yunruo gripped the reins of his horse. "Guard Fang, you can leave first. I want to be alone." Hesitation peppered Fang Gur's face. Qi Yunruo said, "The capital is an important place and the emperor resides here as well. I also have the official seal of Prince Chun's estate. Nothing will happen. After I stroll for a bit, I will return." Fang Gur nodded. "Your honored self should return earlier. Don't make His Highness worry." "All right. Thank you." The neighbors of Count Xiang's estate were wealthy and respectable people. Qi Yunruo told Fang Gur to lead his horse home. Then he walked away, leaving behind the carved railings and jade inlays of the mansions around. All the sumptuous dwellings. He must take back all that belonged to him. However, after returning to the capital, he realized that just like him, the prince faced difficulties at every step. The amount of enemies staring at his back was anyone's guess. Count Xiang's estate was the estate of his father-in-law. If he grew hostile against his own in-laws at this time, one would fear it would create even more problems. Not only did Qi Yunruo want to recover those items, he wanted to understand just what had occurred in the past even more. Why did his mother willingly wait for Qi Suxiao until her death? Why did she cry out the words "Your Majesty" right before dying? If there were no issues, the officials in the capital wanted to live as close to the imperial palace as they could. The high-ranking officials of each government department. The imperial ancestral shrine. All the estates that were closest to the imperial palace were those of the first-ranked princes. The estates were all ordered around the imperial palace according to status, position, and financial resources, so the less well-to-do officials would buy estates farther away, and so forth. When Qi Yunruo realized he had entered an unfamiliar location, he looked left and right. For some reason, the doors to the residences ahead were shut tightly, and there were many people all over the place intentionally or otherwise sizing him up. Qi Yunruo furrowed his brows and passed through them. All of a sudden, he heard someone say the word "Si estate." Qi Yunruo was startled. The surname Si was rare. For the most part, those with that name were people from the previous dynasty who had changed their surnames from Situ and Sima. Qi Yunruo had only heard of one person with the surname of Si, Ceda. Could this be Ceda's residence in the capital? Qi Yunruo stopped in his tracks and someone raised their eyebrows as they looked at him, suspicion filling their gaze, cold and severe. It truly did not resemble the gazes of the officials from the Ministry of Justice or the Dali Temple during official business, as they monitored things. Qi Yunruo lowered his head and gathered his resolve. Then he continued toward that direction. He made a turn at the next alley, rushing away. All the way until he reached a small door. At that moment, it swung open. A 17 to 18-year-old girl was shoved outside, crying out. "Scram," said a large man coldly. Qi Yunruo hid in the corner. He watched as the large man said, "Owing to your loyalty toward master, I, your father, will allow you to live. If you dare to run your mouth outside, your whole family will die." Voice shrill, the girl shouted, "What kind of relative to mistress are you even? You're taking advantage of the fact that our general encountered a mishap, and does not have any descendants. So, you're here to seize the family's property." The large man said with contempt, "What kind of family property does the Si clan even have?" And he slammed the door shut. When he was certain no one else was around, Qi Yunruo quietly approached the girl. He supported her to her feet. Such an act startled her. Covering her mouth, Qi Yunruo dragged her from the area. The girl struggled free and pushed him away. "Who are you?" Qi Yunruo asked. "Are you someone who waits on Mistress Si?" The girl looked at him, suspicion in her gaze. "I am someone from the Ministry of Justice. Are you here to investigate master?" Her tone proved cold. She still looked at Qi Yunruo with suspicion, as if she didn't believe him. Qi Yunruo took out the official seal from his waist and let her have a look. Finally, the girl nodded. "Sir, I'm begging you. Our master is a good person. Master would not betray our nation. Moreover, it's uncertain whether those people are actually relatives of mistress." All of a sudden, a huge crowd had arrived and did not allow me to see her. Today, I sneaked into mistress' courtyard to beg her to drive away these people. But I was discovered. Then they drove me out instead. Qi Yunruo nodded, complicated emotions rising in his heart. He decided to first bring this girl back to Prince Chun's estate, and asked, "What's your name?" "I'm called Cheer." Qi Yunruo blinked. "Cheer." Cheer nodded. My mother was a servant girl who waited on mistress in the past. Her name was Pudao and I'm called Jinger. Since she was a child of a servant belonging to that household, how could they have so easily kicked her out? This was definitely not the desire of her master. He rushed to say, let's leave now. I'll take you along to find my superior, and then have Sir act for you. Jinger nodded again. Qi Yunruo led her by the hand. Just as they had taken a few steps, they heard someone say, halt. At that moment, fear struck Qi Yunruo. Grasping the girl's hand, he said, hurry. We have to run. Jinger nodded in a panic. The two sprinted, the men behind them in hot pursuit. Jinger screamed, why are they chasing us? One of the large men chasing them shouted, halt. Who are you people? Qi Yunruo gritted his teeth, leading Jinger through twists and turns. Familiar with the path, Jinger said, I know shortcut from the red light district to the main street. At this moment, Qi Yunruo didn't care whether it was through the red light district or not. He rushed to nod to Jinger, and Jinger sucked in a deep breath, leading Qi Yunruo as they took a turn at a small alley. He hated himself for telling Fang Ge to take away his horse. He had run to the point where he gasped for breath. All of a sudden, the scent of cosmetics drifted over. Pleasantly surprised, Jinger said, we're here. Qi Yunruo was instantly focused. However, their crowd of pursuers did not let up on the chase. A moment of hesitation, and Qi Yunruo anxiously said, hurry and run, Jinger. Run to Prince Chun's estate. He placed his official seal into her hands. Take this and show it to the guards. Tell them to bring you to Prince Chun. Jinger widened her eyes. However, there wasn't any time left. Qi Yunruo said, I'll look for you in a little while. The two ran with each other for a moment, then Qi Yunruo said, they recognize you but have never seen my face before. I'll help you lure them away, so hurry and find someone to save your mistress. Trembling, Jinger nodded. She ran in the direction Qi Yunruo had pointed to. Capture him. Don't let him run away. Qi Yunruo clenched his teeth. Right now, it was still daytime. There weren't many people in the red light district. There existed only the fragrance of cosmetics drifting out from the opened windows. Occasionally, there were a few idle sons of rich families, who had met with a group of their friends and only knew how to play, swaying as they left from two sides of a brothel. The scent of alcohol had yet to vanish from them. Suddenly, Qi Yunruo saw a young nobleman in fine clothes exit from the building. By his side were a few strong and muscular companions. In a flash, he had an idea. To avoid his pursuers, he gritted his teeth and dashed toward him. Before the young nobleman leading the group could react, he punched him, knocking him stupid. Displaying extreme anger, he said, Surname's Who? Do you still remember me, your father? Snot dripped from Su Yuan's nose after that punch. Currently, he was experiencing success in the capital through hanging on the coattails of others. Everyone ingratiated themselves with him, and no one dared touch him, much less hit him in the middle of the street. Before he could register who that person was, that person hit him again. Qi Yunruo rolled up his sleeves and sneered. Surnamed Su. I've finally run into you. At the start, the officers and soldiers around Su Yuan wanted to help him fight. However, they couldn't help but hesitate. Su Yuan was a son of an influential family of many generations. Could his enemy also be the young master of an influential family? That kind of person wasn't someone these sons of poor and humble families could provoke. Su Yuan rubbed his nose. With Qi Yunruo's strength and courage, there was no way he could have broken it. Su Yuan looked at the hostile person before him. In a flash, he realized who it was. Wasn't this the beautiful young man he had wanted to fool around with at the riverbank back then? And he even fought with the second young master of the Qi family because of him. Cold enough to freeze, he said, so you're in the capital? What? Second, young Master Qi no longer wants you? And you can only play in the male brothels? Do you want us elder brothers to play with you? His tone started to grow vulgar as he said, you actually dared to hit your father. What are you even? If you accompany this grandfather for one night, this grandfather would spare you. Qi Yunruo listened in another direction. Some of his pursuers had already gone a different way. Some of them looked his way suspiciously. But Qi Yunruo had his gaze trained on Su Yuan. Surnamed Su. I know what kind of person you are. You rely on your younger sister who married Prince Yang. You're not even suitable to wipe the shoes of your father. If you had some ability, then your Marquis Wooding's estate wouldn't have fallen into decline long ago. I want to see if you dare touch me. Qi Yunruo glared at him, appearing somewhat terrifying. So much so, that even Su Yuan didn't dare strike back. Marquis Wooding's estate had in fact fallen into decline long ago. Currently, they struggled hard to rise back up. If this person could talk about his younger sister marrying Prince Yang, then this person's identity wasn't simple. Suspicious, Su Yuan asked, who are you? Qi Yunruo sneered. So, you know to be scared now? How about when you provoked me? Those pursuers saw the sons of influential families fighting and did not especially pay attention to them. They left. Qi Yunruo let out a breath of relief. Once his gaze lost its sharpness, Su Yuan suddenly said in a cold tone, speak. Who are you? I want to see who dares to keep saying your father to me. End chapter.